Thanks, Mike, and also thanks, Eleanor. Yes, I'm the scientific director of this national consortium that we've started in Canada called CANUE, and there's a great team of people that's helping to make this happen that you'll hear from throughout this session. I want to just give you some history and background with respect to CANUE and how we got to where we are now today. It started with quite a bit of consultation that the Canadian Institutes for Health Research went through the earlier part of this decade, where they were really thinking that they needed to do something big on environment and health. And what ultimately happened through a couple different workshops on exposures and on chronic disease and a large national forum on subject areas of interest was the launch of their Environment and Health Signature Initiative, which had a number of different phases in it. But one of those phases was specifically targeted towards making data, environmental data, more accessible in health research, and really trying to bring people together to do that sort of research in a more efficient way, hopefully, and to look now not at individual environmental exposures, but the complexities of multi-exposures, and of course at the same time, train more people, build more capacity. As they went and searched around what were sort of the topic areas that they wanted to focus on in an environment, they actually then gravitated towards sort of urban form as an area they felt would resonate and needed some more concerted effort. So it became really a request for data platforms around the topic area of urban form. And that was then early 2015, 2016, where this effort was available. And right out of that came the Canadian Urban Environmental Research Consortium, CANUE, to help meet that need. CANUE has got some internal staff. You just met Eleanor Seton, who's the managing director of CANUE and has really brought things along to a great point in time at this stage. And you can see others there in the picture who all play key roles in helping us bring in data, manage data, help users, help document data, help manage our various meetings and agreements we have with different groups to conduct various aspects of the research. A great team, and that's what's really helped us move along to this stage at this point in time. So we are 2 years old, just a little over 2 years old, and have around 175 members from across Canada, some in academia, some outside of academia in different organizations, hospitals, government organizations, and it truly does cover the breadth of the country. Every province has got at least one person who has signed up to join on the CANUE. And you can see here, we've now rolled out our second phase website, which I think we're all quite proud of. I think it's more interactive and hopefully will attract more people to the website to check us out. And there's the address if you don't know it already. So in a nutshell, as I think about sort of our key things that we're trying to do in CANUE, there is a real need to just bring existing information together and make available. There's, from my experience in the area of air quality, there's a fairly small active group across the country who have been working in that area for some time. We all know each other, but there was a constantly growing need in the health research community for having access to that data and doing more study. And it just made more sense that we work together to help provide that information than have it all be sort of this one-off data exchange. So a key role we're playing is that first one, bringing the existing information together, making it available. Another aspect that I think is really critical to make us go a key step further is to pre-link it wherever we can to key health data sets. So it's not just us with a bunch of environmental data, but we've done a lot of the grunt work to talk to the cohorts, to work with them inside their secure platforms, to link it to the individuals in these cohorts. And there's a couple key ones that you heard about a couple days ago from Danny Duaron in one of the sessions that was right after the first plenary that we've been linked to, like the Canadian Partnership for Tomorrow project and the Canadian Longitudinal Study of Aging. Two large, important prospective studies on health with many multifaceted issues, environment being one of them, that are going on in Canada and that are hoped to go on for many, many years to come. And CANUE is coming at a great time to help sort of be one key group to get environmental data linked into those platforms. There's many others. Now, a real other big hope that I have is that in terms of CIHR funding, it's not every day that they put resources into efforts just around environmental exposure. So often, you will have to have a health question, have to have a health hypothesis. It's even hard at that point to do environmental health research. But here, we've got this opportunity to really move the bar forward in the exposure field in Canada, and that's really exciting, and we're working on trying to do that as we pull existing data together. So we're working within a number of domains that you can read about on our website, but it's really coming from thinking about sort of the key drivers in the urban environment, and across the bottom of the diagram you see that we've got these important challenges facing us, like population growth, economic growth, weather and climate change that are stressing our cities and will do so more, and of course how the population behaves in terms of those sort of pictures across the top. But they come together in sort of these main domains that we're focusing on around air quality, noise pollution, physical activity and neighborhood factors that influence physical activity, other factors of socioeconomic status that are there, weather and climate as well. So we're working within those domains at that stage. And to give it structure in terms of a consortium, and because this is an open national consortium, we initially identified some PIs for the study, which we now have sort of turned into directors. Mike Brower is one of our important directors in CANUE. A number of others, some of you are probably here in the room, but we've got a sort of a team of directors, a team of international advisors who are a part of it. Bert Brunekrief is here. He's one of our international advisors. And then specialists like our staff. But on top of that, to try to give some structure to it, we've sort of broken people that have signed up into sort of expert teams that can advise on issues like statistics or how we really best interface with the real health questions of today, and so more of the clinicians and pediatricians and even toxicologists in the expert teams. But then we have the data teams that are trying to move the bar forward in the data area. I think we've got projects, in all of these areas at this stage that are trying to take us to one step beyond the existing, or more than one step if we can, beyond the existing data. And certainly that represents a challenge because our budget isn't huge that we can spend in these areas, but enough to, I think, make good contributions. Now, another way to think about this in terms of CANUE is around the concept of the exposome. And sometimes I like to pitch what we're doing as helping support information that is focusing on the external exposome, some components of the general external exposome, some components of the specific external exposome. But working within that paradigm, we can see lots of opportunity for us to really interface and address some of the key health questions that are out there. As I mentioned, we're working on bringing in existing data. We have brought in quite a bit of that already into the platform. I think we're really on time, or if not ahead of schedule, from what CIHR was hoping at the beginning. You can find out more about those on the website. We've shown that diagram there. Either can be data that is available, you can request and link to whatever health study you're thinking about yourself, or going to some of these other major platforms where we've pre-linked the data already for people to go in and work within the secure environments of whatever cohort that might be. From what we've seen, this has been a well-placed initiative that CIHR has supported for us to do, and that the demand seems to be very clear. In just the first 12 months of having data available, I think we've filled over 40 data requests in addition to the pre-linking that we've done. You'll hear more about the data from Evan Seed later in this session. And just some examples there are the different sorts of studies that have come in and said we'd like to have access to CANUE data. And even better, our value seems to be recognized by CIHR, and they've recently just announced an initiative to actually support studies that specifically use CANUE data in a secondary data call that just closed in terms of the registration last week. But we do, certainly as a consortium have lots of challenges. We're not huge, we don't have a lot of money, we rely on volunteers to buy into this effort and work together. I think that's something that's always been great in Canada, that we are really good collaborators. We like to help each other out. We're small, so we have to band together to have impact. And so, it's still trying to do that, keeping all these members who aren't all getting money from CANUE, keeping them engaged, keeping the expert teams engaged who came in, and I could articulate a role for them as we sort of structured it out. But it's a huge job just to get them to be active, and we can do this through websites. We've done it through a number of webinars that we host on a regular basis. We have a really exciting webinar coming up in September that you might want to check out. You can learn about it on our website. We've had international speakers in our webinar series, so we managed to do it through that. But we need to get people more engaged in working on the data and the questions, and that comes to some of the things that I hope we'll be able to cover tomorrow afternoon in a meeting that we're having for CANUE that's in this building for those who might be interested in attending. But another challenge is that the data we produce is not a one-size-fits-all. We can't just say, let's make a bunch of analysis-ready data and put it out there and know people will use it properly, understand its limitations, and work with it. We really need to try to communicate with people on that, find out their needs. And one of the big challenges is that it's difficult just to make exposure data in isolation and think it's going to help us address the deep, detailed health questions we have around development of chronic disease, which we work more towards. And that that we've now done sort of the easy work. We're now at the stage of thinking much more complex in terms of how exposures interact, at what scale they interact at, how the scales vary by different populations in time and in space. And so it's something where you got to really interact with the health researchers to be able to know what they need. And that's kind of a back and forth there. And I know that, in terms of the studies that people are doing specifically with, valuable health data set that they have, they're going to probably be innovating themselves with their exposure measures as it is, wanting to be the first to work on that. And CANUE is kind of there, hopefully, as part of that in some cases. In other parts, right there to be able to help then when they've, discovered something new in terms of way to classify exposure, to be able to roll it out for more users quicker. But that's a challenge to have that interplay between the two. We also know that there's other initiatives around the world like this, and how we can interact with them and share, and whether or not there's real aspects of pooling that can go on or whatever, or just sharing of tools and methods. Those are things that we hope to be able to do more of. And clearly, CANUE is funded through 2021. It's a 5-year program. From everything I hear, there's a lot of enthusiasm for the idea, but it is a close-ended funding, and we do need to think about how we're going to continue this going on forward. So those are some of the main challenges. I'm looking forward to the rest of our speakers who will tell you some more details about different aspects of CANUE and some examples of how the data are being used so far in health research. So I want to thank you very much, and just put up our email addresses there, and whether we're going to have time for discussion at the end, maybe we will, but thank you very much.